Alrighty, let's see if this is going to come through loud and clear for everyone. And we're going to talk about the daily close. We are streaming live, so I'm just going to share this in my community and then on Twitter for everyone. And we're going to talk about the Congress hearing. And if you're rewatching this later, feel free to skip forward just a minute or two while we give everyone a chance to tune in. Really important daily close now. Okay. Hey Glenn, hey Daniel, Solomon, Sub-Zero, nice name, and Ziv Stevo. So smash that like button, guys, if this is coming through loud and clear. You can see that chart okay. G'day Brett, g'day Bubba. And then we're going to talk about the Congress hearing, which I watched the majority of. I was up pretty late last night, and there were some pretty important things to come out of that. And I think Bitcoin's price yesterday is definitely related to what we saw during that hearing. Okay, so we've got 60 or 70 watching already now. So let's just start by zooming out a little bit from our dump, which we had yesterday on that hourly chart. You can see that quite well on the 4-hour chart. And you know, I've been talking about this range that we've been stuck in here, but if we zoom out, and let's just go on to another exchange here with less clutter. So if we go all the way back to where we bottomed and get out our fib retracement tool, you can see that we're right around the 61.8% now. And we've almost tagged that perfectly depending on what exchange that you're on. So I think that that's definitely a region that a lot of traders are eyeing off. We've also spoken about this region here for the volume profile. If we zoom out further, you know, we've got weekly closes around here and back at previous levels as well. So this region here is definitely a place that we can look for a bounce. Now on the 3-day chart, let's just bring up a few of our other longer term indicators. So we've got the 200 and 100 moving average here. So this is the 3-day chart, and we've got that coming in as support there. We know on the weekly we lost that 100 week that we were bouncing along there. And on the daily chart, we're now well below all those. But I definitely think that that is one region that people are eyeing off, something that we have to keep in mind. And when we take that off and look at the Bollinger Bands, let's just get rid of the fib retracement for a second. Another tool that a lot of crypto traders use, we're outside that Bollinger Band, and this tends to be a time where we will revert to the mean at some stage. So when we get above the Bollinger Bands, you know, that tends to be a good place to sell. And when we get below them, it tends to be a place where we sort of at least have a bounce or a bit of a correction. So when I build my crypto thesis from the ground up with that fundamental approach, these are all the different things that I definitely look for. And because it just tells you that there's more traders with these different trading techniques that are all looking for a bottom. We've also got, you know, the Elliott wave guys talking about this structure, and now they're pretty happy that they've had their 3 waves down as a general correction. I think we've got that 1, 2, 3 ABC kind of structure. So yeah, there's lots of different traders out there with different types that are all looking for some sort of bottom. Now, if this doesn't hold, you know, I definitely think, as I've said, we're heading back towards that sort of 6,000 level where we had 2018 act as support. But a lot of people wanting to buy there. I think there'd be a mad rush. And so now that we've sort of had a bit of a bounce here, the daily close in 10 minutes becomes really important. And if we can get a strong daily close, that increases the chances that we're going to start to see more positive action going forward. All right, so the Bollinger Bands, it's not going to let me get rid of those. There we go. Perfect. So let's just have a look at the news stories to come out. So Mark Zuckerberg, you got to feel for him sometimes. He brings this upon himself in a lot of ways, but he did cop an absolute grilling, and it was over everything, not just Libra, but talk about that Congress want to monitor this. If it goes ahead before every regulator in the US give it the all clear, then Zuckerberg committed that, Facebook would pull out at that stage. A lot of the talk around, well, is this anonymous? And the general gist is that the cryptocurrency itself is basically going to be anonymous, but he's saying, well, Facebook and the Calibra wallet that we're going to make, we're going to KYC everyone. So Congress really didn't like a lot about that. But it's being seen as a threat. So the repeated theme that kept coming up during this hearing was, this is a threat to the financial system, to the US dollar, to its supremacy. It's got a basket that's mainly US dollar, but if all these other founding members vote to change that, maybe the Chinese yuan becomes the biggest part of the basket, and all these things that are challenging US dollar hegemony. And it's funny to watch them talk about that, and they know that it is such a privilege. They're talking about getting to sanction other countries. So really using money as a weapon, and this is just the norm to them. So from the outside looking in, this is openly admitting that they're using, the US dollar to be the world police in a lot of ways. And this is what we're trying to disrupt with fully decentralized money. And Libra just cannot compete on these sort of levels. And we know that throughout Europe, we've already had a lot of countries push back. It's banned in China and Russia. So yesterday they pivoted and started talking about, well, maybe we'll do more of a peg to US coins. So I've been a firm believer that from the start, Libra is not going to go ahead anytime soon. It's not going to go ahead in the current form that they proposed. So this was a real grilling, and I think Mark's starting to think, what have I got myself into here? A lot of other aspects of the privacy and the data issues, groups and what's going on. Some of the senators and the things that they were saying, they're very unhappy, and they don't want Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook in charge of currency in any way, shape or form. So look, I'm sure you guys are going to hear plenty of breakdowns of what went on in this hearing, but long story short, a real grilling about crypto in general and Libra challenging the US dollar. That's not something that we want. And there's a few congressmen in there that are very open to this technology and saying to the other senators, you don't understand this. It's almost a waste of time talking about this because you don't understand the technology. But I think a lot of people will view this as not a positive. So it wasn't completely negative for Bitcoin, but it certainly wasn't a positive the way that they were talking about the US dollar and all the privileges that they get from that, and how that can very much be taken away with Bitcoin or Libra, whatever it is going to be. There was some talk that it's very hard to stop. So I think people were joking yesterday on Twitter that you can't call the CEO of Bitcoin into Congress. And, Congress did mention that line of thinking along the way, that it is unstoppable in some ways. So this daily close now, if you're just tuning in, this becomes really important. We've had this dump, another leg down. On the RSI, we've got a bit of divergence here with price trending lower. And this new indicator that we've been playing around with, again, this is also seeing a bit of divergence. So we got a sell signal yesterday on that a few hours before the dump. It's not looking like it's crossing over to a buy anytime soon, but let's see once we print this candle in a few minutes. In terms of volume, big dump volume. We would have liked to see a bigger volume on this week if we're going to get a bit of a hammer reversal doji here, and then we can confirm that with a nice close here with another wick, and then we want a green candle here, and ideally it would be a big green candle up over halfway of this big red Marabazoo, one of my favorite candle formations. So really important daily close. And if you're just joining us, guys, I'll just zoom back out quickly. Let's have a look at the 3-day chart that does show this really well. get out our fib retracement tool, and from the bottom there, that was around 31.50, 30 on a few different exchanges, up to the top. You can see that we've almost tagged that 61.8 that a lot of people were watching. It's this level here with daily and weekly closes as support. And let's be honest, when we're looking at the retracement back from 14,000 when people were FOMOing in, a lot of people are very happy to buy. And I think the whole stacking sats movement and dollar cost averaging, there's so much people are just familiar with that. They think it's a good technique. There was a study out the other day saying that actually bulk buying is better than dollar cost averaging. But again, I'd want to see more data and testing around that. It does depend what you're using to do that as well. So I know there's some apps out there that people really like, but I heard the other day one of them charges 4%. And I mean, these days, if you're set up and you're organized and you're registered with all the different exchanges, there's a lot of places that charge 0.1% or at least less than 1%. I know Get Paid in Bitcoin is a service that's very popular, and they charge $1 per paycheck. So if you want to do that, $100 out every fortnight when you get paid into Bitcoin, they charge $1. So that's something that a lot of people have really enjoyed. That's just called Get Paid in Bitcoin for any of you guys that are interested. Whale dumped. We did see a bit of a swing in the longs versus shorts. So blockchain whispers have updated now that Binance got this margin trading. We see a lot of people, 75% of people short on there. I don't believe these numbers too much on Bitfinex. These tend to chop and change. And I think we had a big position close just before the move last night. And BitMEX is fairly level pegging there. Obviously, that's a futures contract rather than the real Bitcoin, which is traded on Bitfinex, and now Binance have got their futures contract as well as their spot markets. So let's just head back over and have a look at those longs versus shorts, because I think right before the drop we had a big leap up in longs and a big leap up in shorts, I believe. So somebody knows something when someone opens a position of 2,000 shorts, but also the longs taking a bet. So look, these markets and whether you call it manipulation or whatnot, it's so hard to get an ETF through when this sort of thing is happening. But that initial dump, then another leg lower with a nice big long wick. That's the first step we need to forming a bottom. But a lot of traders are still talking about far lower levels. They're looking at that 6,000 or 5.5 mark. And we've got 30 seconds to this daily close. So look, why the daily close is so volatile, if you've watched these videos, or for members that get my daily updates every morning in our Facebook community, and I'll do a more detailed write-up once I get off this video for you guys. This is so important because there's traders in Australia, the US, some people staying up in Europe. It really is when there's all eyes on the market, particularly after a big move. Some traders will set their alarm clock to get up, in the middle of the night. And so now we have that daily close, and we move on to the next candle. You can start to see it being formed here. And whatever direction this starts to head in can really determine the direction for the rest of that day. A lot of the time, in the first 20% of the time, you can get 80% of the move is a trading rule I've heard thrown around. So on shorter term timeframes, we often see this being, whipsawed. The bears will try and push this down to try and get that daily candle red and get everyone a bit bearish for that day. But this is why we see this chopping, a lot of volatility, and then we can head the other direction. So something that I really like to watch every day, and then zoom out, look at all the time frames, do my write-ups on what I think is going to happen. Now, interestingly, we've seen alts a lot stronger from that bounce low. So if you have a look at that wick, off the initial dump even, Ethereum and a lot of other alts only, just made lower lows there. And since then, it's been pretty strong, and this shows up most apparently in the ETH BTC pair. So if you look at, this is the altcoin basket on FTX. Again, that's looking fairly strong. The mid cap, the shitcoins, maybe not so much. Litecoin not that strong. XRP's had a fairly decent bounce there by the look of it. Bitcoin Cash. So yeah, there's a few alts that are holding up pretty well, and that shows up again more clearly if you have a look versus their Bitcoin pairs. A nice bounce off the lows there for XRP. So that's in percentage terms, yeah, 7-8% move. Not as much volatility as I was thinking we were going to get around that daily close. A lot of uncertainty. It truly has been a battle of the bulls versus the bears while we've been stuck in this trading range. Formed a bit of that bit of the head and shoulders there, and once we lost that level, it was that big red candle. It was all those stop losses get triggered. So at the moment, this isn't the super bullish pattern, the reversal that I would have liked to seen. If we maybe form a little bull flag here, that gives us hope, but we need to increase volume. When we've had this sort of selling action, you know, at the moment, buyers aren't confident stepping in front of this falling knife, trying to catch it, and everyone wants a lower entry, you know, 7,000, 6,000 is a gift. I've just finished my presentation. So this weekend, I'm speaking at the Gold and Alternate Investment Conference in Sydney. And going over those slides and putting it all together, you know, it just makes you realize how bullish you are long term, particularly because of the currency wars. And people forget how many currencies there are globally. You know, we've got Libra in the fold now. Apple Pay, everyone wants to launch their own currency, their own rewards token. So what is money? What is value? People are asking those questions. And I believe this event in Sydney is a sellout, at least 500 people. So I'm a bit nervous. I've got about 50 slides to get through in half an hour and pitch these gold investors on why Bitcoin is so important. So I might upload a copy of that to YouTube. I'm not sure. But for now, I'll leave it there. And for members, I'll do a write-up on what I see coming for the large cap coins and Bitcoin shortly. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you all have a great day. That Congress hearing wasn't the best, but let's see what comes as the dust settles. So I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.